All right. Well, welcome everyone. Thanks for taking the time today. We're excited to talk about our reporting product today, actually. So my name is John. I'm a technical success manager here at ObservePoint. A quick thought about time. We're planning on about 45 minutes for us to chat about reports and to do some and to demo some cool stuff. And then about 15 minutes for questions and answers afterwards. So make sure you drop your questions in the chat whenever they come up throughout the webinar, and we'll hit on them in the moment if it makes sense, or else we might just keep them and take care of them at the end. But please uh, please send us the questions though. So now we're both CSMs. We do this with customers every day, and today is all about helping you get the most out of the reporting product that you already have in ObservePoint.
Exactly. So I'm Eve. Hello to everyone who I can see that I recognize, and nice to meet you for everyone else. So today we're going to cover the basics of building reports, the different report types, a few newer features, and a load of practical use cases for surfacing the data that matters most to your teams. So I'm assuming we've got a range of people watching. So whether you are a complete beginner or you've been using reports for some time, hopefully there's going to be something for you today.
Yeah, so here's the plan. We're going to cover a few new things that we've shipped recently and some product updates. Then we'll talk about why reporting matters. A quick word about getting your data ready. Then at the heart of it, a set of quick live demos on real sites to show you how to build a report from scratch, and also some general recommended use cases. Then we'll close with sharing what you find in these reports, and then a few best practices.
Brilliant. So before we get into the strategy, let us quickly show you 5 recent upgrades that should make all of this easier. So I'll just start by sharing my screen for 1 second. I'm just gonna replace your share. Hopefully this works. You can all see an embarrassing amount of screenshots on my background for 2 seconds, but hopefully you can see this page now. So this first one, the report gallery tab, we will talk more about this later in the session, but the gallery is a great starting point for some key use cases for reports. So in terms of what's new, first of all, this is now a fully dedicated page for this. There's no more buried collapsible section that was kind of hidden away at the top before. This is all very easy to spot. You've got some clear report descriptions, as you can see in each of these. Actually, I'm just going to move my face to the other screen so I don't get blocked. Um, yeah, you've got some clear report descriptions. You can group by different things over here. So you can group by use case, you can group by framework, by different report types. And you have also got some new and popular badges. So some of these little strings along the top. So popular, just to point out which things you might not have seen before, or you can see that other customers have been really enjoying. You can also see if there are different charts available, so just charts and then a number. Um, so that's just nice to know if there's a pre-built template in there or not for you for charts. You can also filter and browse templates easily before saving them into your account with this bit here. So you can see all the different options by the different report type, the name, use cases, frameworks, new reports, and popular ones. Then in the saved reports tab, so with this one, you can search, filter, and group your reports by label, type, creator, or any of these fields here. What we actually recommend is adding labels to your reports for better organization. So you can do that by just adding this little plus sign here. What you'll find is a lot of templates do come with auto labels anyway, but you can also add your own too. It's a good organizing system, and the same report, you're able to give it, sorry, yeah, the same report can have multiple labels. Um, what you may have noticed as well, this blue banner at the top here, some of you may have already used it, so won't see it anymore. But we do have this AI auto label option to help you get started with labeling your reports. So it's basically a one-time thing to lower the friction, and then you can kind of try and organize from then on. So I mean, I saved it for this demo, so I could click it. It says it will take a minute or two, and then it's gonna auto label everything for me. So, I mean, you can probably do that if you've got a sec now and you haven't used it. It's a really good starting point. In the meantime, let me show you how you can bulk manage your report. So over here, I've just hot. Oh, there we go. I've got some nice new labels. Um, you can hover over the different reports. You can select a few things at once, and you can manage it with this bottom tab here. So you've got a few things like visibility, so who can see it, whether it's just you or everyone. You've got your favorites that you can bulk do, and you can also bulk add labels or bulk delete things too. And then one thing to point out is that your last view and your filters will be saved automatically as well. So just bear that in mind. I will stop sharing my screen, John. You can just pop yours up if you want to do the last few updates.
Yeah, thanks, Eve. Okay, so I think I'm going to be able to show the next three features that we wanted to show from a single report. So what I'm going to do is actually use this create report option here, and these are some basic. These are all the available data models essentially that you're able to build reports from scratch from. But I'm going to use the pages report here. And there's a couple new columns that we have added to this data model recently that I want to highlight here. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to add a couple new columns, all page links and all page cookies. Now this is a pages report, so every row is a single page that we scanned in an audit, and I want to focus on the successful pages. I don't really care about looking at the data for broken pages in this use case. So I'm going to filter down to the page status code type and successful status code types. Okay, so these two new columns that we have here, like I said, all page links and all page cookies. These are some calculated fields where essentially what they are on the all page links is a comma separated list of all the links that we found on that page, including the link text and then the link itself, the URL. And then the all page cookies is a comma separated list of the cookie name and the base domain of that cookie. So this allows you to do some really cool logic with these because you have access to all of these things. The page links, these are all links on the page, regardless if we actually followed those links and went to them and scanned those pages. And so maybe someone in your legal counsel comes to you and asks, "Hey, is our privacy policy link available for on all of our production sites?" You might have got a question like that recently or in the past, and that might have been a really complicated project for you to work on in the past. But with this new column here, it's actually pretty easy now. So I'm actually going to set a filter on the all page links. And the logic behind that filter here is I want to look at all the pages that do not contain the privacy policy link. And so I'm going to assume that your privacy policy link text is just privacy policy. So show me all the pages that do not contain privacy policy and apply that. And that's it. You're now going to get a list of all of the URLs that do not contain that privacy policy link. And the all page cookies, it works really similarly. And so you can do a very similar type of logic where you want to see all the pages that might be missing a cookie. So for example, you could say, I want to see all the pages that do not contain the underscore GA, whoops, underscore GA cookie here, a popular Google Analytics cookie. I want to see all those pages. Again, that's really quick and simple to create a list of the pages like that. So great. A couple more really quick features that I wanted to highlight as well is the undo and redo button. I know that this is probably a godsend for a lot of folks, but you can just undo the changes and go back to even your very initial state. But you no longer have to reload the page when you've made too many changes and you want to get back to a workable state. And then a quick one to finish is not a new column type, but it was a recent bug fix on, whoops, uh, the page source type. So the page source type column is basically telling you, okay, how did we find this page that we visited? It's going to be one of three things. It's either going to be a starting URL that is in the audit settings. It's going to be a link that we crawled to from the pages, or it's going to be a page that we found in the sitemap. And we recently did a bug fix that affects all the audits that ran after April 21st of this year, where now we're accurately showing which pages came from a sitemap. And so just a quick bug fix there that we wanted to highlight. So that's what's new. So now, why does any of this matter?
So here's the big shift. Reporting now lets you build across all of your data in whatever format you need. So that might be a time series, an aggregated list, a chart, a detailed list of data points, as granular or as high level as you want. So it used to be that the audits and journeys gave you a fixed set of reports that we had designed, but now you're in control. So you can report across an estate of hundreds of domains or drill all the way down to a single page, a tag, or a network request.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the real value here is the feedback loop, right? So when a report is scheduled, when leadership owns a metric off of it, or when the detailed errors are getting sent to the correct folks, you stop going to look for the problems and the problems start to surface themselves. Lowering and automating that loop is where the value really is. So a quick check. Where are you on this ladder? Crawling is you're logging in to take a look. Walking is that you have saved a few reports and you go check them every so often. Running is you have scheduled and set up alerting, but flying is leadership owning some metrics found in these reports. So wherever you are, everything today is about moving up one step in this ladder.
So most of you should already have audits running, and that's great. But this is more of a quick reminder on scope and frequency. So it would be great to scan every URL every day, but realistically, that's not practical. So the goal is the best mix of broad coverage and short feedback loops. So the data you're looking at is always going to stay fresh and relevant.
Yeah, so for audit coverage, our general recommendation is first a daily audit on your critical high traffic pages, and that's the best feedback loop payoff for that effort. 10 to 15% sample after deploys to catch anything a major release might have broke. And then quarterly, you want to go as wide as possible into every crack and corner of your sites. And that's not something that, me and Eve just made up on ourselves. This is actually our official recommendation from our web governance frameworks that ObservePoint has recently released. So if you look at your test coverage and you spot gaps in it, that's a great thing to raise with your CSM. All right, so here's the fun part. We're going to go live and walk through some real use cases that we have noticed with some of the organizations that we have worked with. So I'm going to stop sharing, Eve.
Thank you. Or I'll just wait for you to stop sharing, or I can replace it. I'm going to press replace
Yeah,
anyway.
go ahead.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sorry about all the screenshots again. I'm going to kick this part off. So in my main demo, I'm going to show you how to build a report from scratch. And then afterwards, I'll show you a couple of other use cases that I made earlier. So let's build one from scratch. I want to think about a certain scenario. Let's go with my company's migrating to a new website or CMP or just going through some large change project in general. I want to know exactly what's happening with my tags before and after the change. I'd like to get a view of the snapshot before and after this, just to show if there has or hasn't been a change in tags and completeness in general. So maybe let's try and get a view of the number of pages containing each tag and any different tag accounts. So I would imagine that for some of these, I'd want this to stay the same. And then for others, I'd hope it was different depending on the situation. So to start, let's create a tag report. So I'm going to come over here, I'm going to click on this create report button. And as you can see, you can choose from a variety of different report types. We've got accessibility, audit, browser logs, etc. I'm going to click on the this tag one over here. So when we're doing one from scratch, this view is a starting point that you can make bigger or smaller. Personally, I like to start by getting the columns as simple as possible and then building them back up with the information that I want. So we know the main focus is my tags. So let's start with just that column. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move that, you can move the columns around. So I'm going to move this all the way to the left. And the feature that I quite like is this three dots here and doing remove all columns to the right. So as you can see, that was pretty easy to do. I'll just make that, oops, make that a little bit bigger. I want to see the tag account in this scenario. So let's add that in. And I'm going to come over here to this column section and you can see how many bits of data there are that you can mess with. So I can start typing tag account because I know that's the one that I want. But you probably saw if I just open up the little arrows here, there are so many different metrics that you can add to this. So depending on the information you're trying to get, like, your options are endless, depending on which bits of info you care about the most. So let's see. For this example, like I said, I'm looking at before and after a big change has happened. So either you can do this by comparing different runs, or you could simply copy an existing audit and make a post-change version. So that's what I'm going to show today. I want to compare the most recent run of two different audits, one being before the change and then one after. So I'm going to add in a column for audit name. So I'm just going to come back here, close all this up, just type in name because I know that's the column that I want. So as this is happening, I also want to add a filter in for just the audits we're looking at today, because you want to remember that otherwise you're viewing data from the whole of your account. So, I mean, that's great, depending on what you're looking at, but this view will be absolutely every audit you've got in your account. So you want to use the filters to be really specific about the things that you do want to see. So with filtering, I've got a couple of options. Either I can click on the three dots at the column I'm trying to filter, and I can do it this way. So the ones that I made, I know the name of, and they've both got that word in. I've got my normal one and then a post-migration version, so I'll apply that. The other option you have is you can come to filters at the top here, and you can actually filter by any metric that we've got. It doesn't matter if you have a column in your report or not, you can still filter at the top here. So let's see, I've done the filter. So now we just want to look at my yeah, now we're just looking at my pre and post migration audits because that's the filter that I put in there. Next, I want to show you how to group. Grouping in ObservePoint grouping in ObservePoint is going to turn raw row by row data into aggregated statistics, so really a pivot table. Raw data is one row per page or tag or whatever the report scans. So if you group by a column, you do that when you want that data collapsed into one row per unique value with every KPI rolled up into a summary stat for that value instead of showing every underlying row when you've got everything on the page. So as an example, raw data might show hundreds of rows, one per page a tag fires on, but if you group by tag, what we're going to do here, actually, I'll just do that now. You do the three dots, you click on group by this column, and then you get one row per tag with a count of all the other columns that you can see here. We actually want to group by tag and tag account. So let's do this one as well. Three dots, group by this column, because we want to get one row per tag, tag account pair with the metrics rolled up for each pair. So this is useful when account has multiple tag accounts for the same page, and you want to see the breakdown per pairing rather than just one blended number. So the underlying logic is, whatever you group by becomes the row identity, everything else becomes a metric summarized against it. So the two decisions that matter are what to group by, so what you want one row for each of, and then which metrics to keep, so what you want summarized for each of those rows. Now, the bit of information we want here is actually a view of the number of pages containing each tag and any different tag account. So we are going to use breakouts to show before and after the change. I want to show a comparison of one order against another. So let's go ahead and add a breakout for that pre and post migration. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on these three dots here. I'm going to click add breakout by value. Again, I actually know the names of my audit, so I'm just going to do a filter by name. And found this out earlier, you can add multiple, you don't have to add breakouts individually, you can add multiple at once. So I'm just going to select the ones I'm interested in. So my normal one and then my post migration one. So let's add these over here. I can also move the columns around so it's in the order I want it. Just maybe a bit of OCD. I don't want the post one before the normal one. So let's move that around. Also, let's change the page aggregation to the metric that I'm looking at. I want the final page URL. So basically, I want to have a nice view of the pages that each tag on tag accounts are on and can compare any differences before and after the change. So I'm going to click on these three now. So rather than it saying unique rows, let's click on change breakout aggregation. And let's change the column to start typing the one I want. So final page URL is what I'm looking for. I'm going to apply that. And I'm going to do the same on this one. Final page URL. Let's add that over there. So I appreciate that this is an example report, but you can scroll down and you can see post migration in this tag still exists. Whereas it wasn't there before. Well, not still exists, it now exists. It wasn't there before. So, if that's what you wanted to see, you confirmed it worked. It's fantastic. Otherwise, you may have flagged a problem. So, if the numbers were to go down and tags have been removed, you can question, was that actually meant to happen? It basically helps alert you to any expected or unexpected changes. It just depends on what you were hoping to see. You can take a look and compare the two. I also want to point out drilling, which is a capability that I personally really like. So if I wanted to say, see a list of these 25 URLs in this specific order that the tag's firing on, I can just click on the three dots here. I can do drill into this group in a new tab, click on that, and that's going to show you a list of the URLs as they come up. So these URLs over here. Let's see. If I just come back here, it's going to close that bit. So if I were to actually go ahead and save this report, I could do it like that. Just going to call it test for now because I probably made a few of these practicing. If I went ahead and saved it, I then decided to share a public link. What I could do, I could click on here and I could do share public link just to point out the people who I share this with, they would also be able to do the drill down thing I just showed you. So they only have access to the data they're looking at, but they do have access to whatever raw data is powering the report. John's actually going to talk about sharing a bit later anyway, but I just wanted to point that one out with the drilling. So that is building a report from scratch. We've also got a few other examples that we've prepared and wanted to show off. So, you know what, before I do that, one thing I did want to show, before I dive into that, I just want to point out that you can take inspiration from our gallery, which, as you can see, has got 100 report templates. So, ready-made reports for the most common use cases. I do appreciate it may look a little overwhelming, but as you saw earlier, you can actually filter down to some of the most common and popular ones. So on this filter here, you could do popular reports. And I really like that. It's just a nice starting point. So, a few good ones could be knowing where your broken links are. Oh, I thought I was scrolling. Knowing where your broken links are, checking your cookie inventory, responding to a data subject access request, pulling a tag inventory. Most of the time, the report you need already exists, but it's tailorable. So, on the rare occasion a report isn't there, you can just pick one that's close enough to what you need and edit the columns like I showed you when we were building it from scratch. Just mess around with those columns and then then click save. So anyway, I've got a few use cases to show off that I made earlier. And for some of these ones, I did actually use a bunch of these templates to start them off and just made a couple of small adjustments. So the first one is this one. So this is a really good one. This is for checking confidence in CSP. Now, what does that actually tell you? This is a browser log report that's going to tell you whether your content security policy is silently blocking legitimate marketing and analytics tags from firing. So, CSP is a security control that IT is going to put in place to block browser to third-party traffic. So, it is built for security reasons, but MarTech and analytics tools are, by definition, third parties. A misconfigured CSP can block them by accident, meaning that you keep paying for tags that you're not getting data from. This can end up hitting marketing or analytics tags, Facebook, etc., as you can see here. In this example, you can see all of these tags being blocked by the CSP, and you can see that it's been filtered to log level equals error over here. Each one is a tag that you're paying for, but getting zero data back from. In terms of how I made this one was literally the template. I went to the reports over here, removed this filter, literally just typed in CSP, and it was the tags triggering CSP error one. So highly recommend it. Next, let's come to this one. So a few good ones that I can think of that should be quite high up your list are on effective spend on web technologies. There are a few reports you can use. You want to make sure you're not wasting money on the technologies running on your site. Between them, they're going to cover three ways that spend gets wasted. Could be paying for different tools that do the same thing, paying for tags that fire twice, and paying for tags that are broken and never fire at all. So let's start off with this one. This one is a tag inventory report grouped by tag category. So this one here is going to tell you which technologies are running on the site, grouped by tag category, so you can see the overlap between tools doing the same job. It's important because multiple tools doing the same job is going to cost money in two ways. One, in terms of license, and then one in terms of maintenance. So, in this particular example, you can actually see three different analytics platforms. You've also got multiple tag management stacks running in parallel on the same pages. So, you're paying for and maintaining three different analytics platforms to answer the same question. One of them we're looking at here is actually Universal, which was sunset in 2023 anyway. So that one hasn't collected a single data point since then. So, if it's firing on page views for zero data and insight, it's still costing engineering the upkeep to keep it alive. So, if you could point that out to various people, that might be a good way to say, hey, we can probably save on a few things here. And then similar story in the tag management side. You've got multiple ones going on here. Usually, this could mean that there's either a migration that was never finished or two teams building independently without shared visibility. So running multiple TMS instances on a page is going to waste money and time, and it's going to tie up extra resource on maintenance and configuration. So how I built this one, again, template from the tag inventory report, and I just grouped by tag category and removed a couple of columns. Another reminder, remember to filter by the audits that you're interested in or the folders you're interested in, just so you're being really specific in the focus. Then another one I've got, checking the time here as well. Okay, all good. Another one, so analytics duplicates reports. This one's going to tell you which tags are firing more than once across the site. A duplicate tag is going to send a duplicate request. That's double the cost if it is usage based. And it's going to inflate your data by double counting a visitor. So that combination of paying twice and having the wrong numbers is what makes this one of the best findings to bring to someone's attention and make you look really good. I'd say analytics tags are usually the highest cost-effective one, but still worth checking across other tags too. So in this one, you could just remove the filter for tag categories, web analytics, and just see any duplicates across any of the tags that you've got. So in this particular report, we can see we've got, if we look at Adobe Analytics, for instance, You've got 144 duplicated request URLs, so 144 different tracking calls that fired more than once when they shouldn't have been. The max identical request count we've got as 15, so the worst single case, so one tracking call went out 15 times in a row for the same page visit, all with identical content. And then you've got 68 distinct pages affected, so that isn't one broken page, it's happening on 68 different pages across your site. So put together on 68 pages, you've got Adobe Analytics sending the same event over and over per visit, up to 15 times in the worst case instead of once. So you've got 144 separate instances of this happening. So anything measured by that event is going to be overcounted by roughly that same multiple. And then this report, again, really easy template. It was the analytics duplicates template. If you want to see it for tags other than analytics, just remove that tag category one I showed you there. And then the last one before I hand over to John, I've got a rules report over here. So this one I've got rule results in the last 90 days. Um, this one is to try and show you which tags are misconfigured or missing against the rules that you've set up to check them. So why is it important? Again, comes back to the fact that you're paying money for technologies to give you valuable data. And if those technologies are missing or not working as you'd expect, you're either getting no data or untrustworthy data, which is a waste of time and spend. So, if the pixel never fires, nothing's collected for the money spent, and then the same applies to corrupted data, wrong data, also wasted spend. This report monitors whether any tags that you've paid for are not working how you need them to. So in this example, you can see all these rules flagged as failing over here. This is where they've passed. This is where they failed for either tags missing or because they've got the incorrect variables. So I made this using the breakouts feature that I showed you before. So I added a breakout by value to see how many times a given rule has passed versus failed. And I've got the value split into these different ones here. So again, whether the tag's missing or it's because of the incorrect variables. Um, so also, if I wanted to then drill down after a breakout, I could see which pages failed a given rule. I could do the same thing as before, just do the three dots and drill down. So again, how I built it, very easy. I used the broken rules report. I think I took off the filter that they were broken because I wanted to see the past ones as well. And I just added a column in the column adder for the then condition tag result. So that's how you do that one. And I think that is back over to you, John. I'll stop sharing this one and pass it back. There you go.
Awesome. Thanks, Eve.
Yeah, no worries.
Um, yeah, so I'm going to walk you through three more use cases. A very popular one here at ObservePoint, a really interesting one to me, and then a very nerdy one. And I'm trying to do this in a way where I can basically build these reports or load these report templates, and that you could do the same as well. And so you're more than welcome to follow along and actually open up the same templates that I'm working. For the sake of time, I'm going to try to do this really quickly, which is fine. So each one of these use cases has a question behind it. So the first question might be, okay, where are all my broken links and where can I find them? So we have a report template for broken links specifically. So we're going to start out with this. This is a really popular one. And I'm actually going to add a couple new columns to this. Or I'm going to add one more column to this in just a sec. But if you haven't seen this report, there's two main parts to it. You have the source final page URL and then the link URL. Basically, the source final page is where which page did this broken link exist on, and then the link URL is the broken link itself, and you get the status codes for both. And then there's a couple more columns here for link text and link outer HTML that helps you find these links on the pages when you're looking for them. So what I'm going to do though is I'm going to add another column here that's actually really similar to the column that I added in my last demo. This one's called the source page source type. And essentially this is for that source page that that broken link exists on, because you might say, okay, great, I have a list of all the pages that these broken links exist on, and that's great. But where and how did ObservePoint find those pages, right? Where did they come from? And so here you have kind of all three versions visible here. So the first two are sitemap pages. So that means that these sourced pages here were found on your sitemap. So you have uh, pages on your sitemap that where this first one is a successful page, but it has a broken link on it, and the second one is one of the pages actually is broken, and this link is actually just a link to itself. It's a relative link. So really, really cool way where you can see kind of that full hierarchy and maybe even a click path of how to get to these broken links. Okay, great. So now what do you do with it? Well, here in this example, we have about 12 broken links. Actually, not that bad. And if you look at it, the link URLs, I think there's only about three distinct URLs here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to save this report. And after I save it, now I have some sharing and exporting options like Eve talked about earlier, where these first three options are kind of one-time options. I recommend the public link. Eve already talked about that. But I want to focus on the schedule news share because a broken links report like this and many other reports, in fact, probably the majority of the reporting templates are what I like to call a burn down style report. It's a list of error points. You want that report to be empty because then that means that nothing's broken, nothing's thrown an error. Yes, you can do a one-time share and work on this as kind of a one-time project, but what happens when you want to maintain this over time? Well, we want to schedule this to be sent out. And so you can put in the email addresses, a custom message, export options, including that awesome public link option, and then the schedule. So if you have, regularly running audits, like we recommended, either your daily or weekly or something like that, you want to shorten that feedback loop. And so if you have a weekly running audit, and you want to be notified when you find a broken link on that weekly audit, and it's running Mondays, then we can schedule this report to be sent out on say Tuesdays to make sure we're getting the freshest data. And this checkbox here, which is relatively new as well, is really nice for these burn down reports because you might go a month or two without having any broken links on your site, but then all of a sudden one pops up. And so you're not going to get inundated with these empty reports or these reports that you kind of forget to start looking at because you're just getting them all the time and everything. So essentially, it turns the report into an alert in of itself, which is a really great way to use this. And so now the next use case that I'm going to go or the question is you might be getting some questions from your legal counsel about GDPR laws. Now, let's say you're a US based company and they're asking about GDPR laws, and you might think, okay, well, we're okay because I have audits set up and that are regularly running out of a European location, and I'm checking my privacy and we're validating our privacy, and so and those are looking good. So we're probably okay. But but what about your US based audits? Now, what does the US based audits have to do with the GDPR laws? Well, this is a report that we actually have to help with this. This one's called Top 10 Countries Receiving Data. And so your US based websites might be sending data uh, or might be sending network requests that is sending data to these European countries. And so US-based websites, obviously the high majority of the of these network requests are going to the US, which is great. And you get this nice chart here first, but let's take a look at the raw data. So the raw data is saying, okay, we are actually sending network requests from a US location. So you have a US user and it's sending data to Great Britain, France, Germany, Denmark, places like that. And those would be covered under the GDPR law, and you still need to be compliant in those requests. And so that's definitely something you can look at. And to show off that drilling feature again, okay, what are those requests? I see 9 for Great Britain. So let's drill into that. This is going to give you a list of those request URLs. And once this loads, it looks like these are some Marketo URLs and font share and a couple others. So that's definitely something you can look into and see why this might be happening. So an interesting use case there. Okay, so now for the nerdy one. I come from an engineering background, and so forgive me if I nerd out a little bit too much here. But let's say your engineering team is talking about page performance issues, and they want you to do some researching, and you're on the let's say you're on the marketing team, and your engineering team wants you to do some research on your marketing tags. Well, that's something that we're already doing for you on your audits. So I'm going to open up a report template called Tag Performance and Health. Let me just check time real quick. Yep, I gotta go quick. Um, so I'm going to show a filter, or I'm going to filter down because this is a list of all the tags that are firing on your page, but I'm going to filter down so we're not looking at an astronomical amount of data to Google Tag Manager and Google Analytics, the GA4 tag. So I'm going to focus on those two right here. And right off the bat, we have a couple things that we're showing you the statistics of. I want to focus on the tag loading time. This is how much time the tag from start to finish is taking to load. And we have these nice aggregations that are already built in here. We got a min, median, and max, but we actually have more aggregations to choose from, a lot here. But I'm actually going to
John,
add.
can I just cut in 1 second? Just say, you don't need to panic about time. It's not as bad as you think. Don't worry.
Okay, no worries. I'm going to add in the average here because sometimes it's worth it to look at both the median and the average of these statistics, right? And so if we notice here, let's focus more on the Google Tag Manager. Between the median and the average and the max, actually, it's a pretty tight grouping. In terms of milliseconds for tags to be firing, a good recommendation, especially with these specific tags, would be 500 milliseconds or less. And that's not only our recommendation, that's actually a recommendation in our frameworks from Google themselves. And so Google Tag Manager is actually doing pretty good. Obviously, there's some outliers there. But with the GA4 tag, the median tag tells you that you're doing pretty good, but then the average is triple what the median is, and then the max is way too high. That's 7 seconds. And so there's obviously probably a little bit more work to be done here at on the GA4 tag. Um, and so the next question is, so what? Right? So what does the slow loading times mean? Well, it could mean missed opportunities to capture marketing data because users might not wait 7 seconds just for your GA4 tag to fire successfully when navigating through their site. But there is another layer here. This is how long the tags take to load, but what about when they start to load? So I'm going to get a little bit even more nerdy here, so be prepared. I'm going to add another column here that is called request started at relative to LCP. So the LCP is largest contentful paint. So basically, when the main content on the page that is loading on that page is loaded and is visible to the user, right? And I'm actually going to move that over this way. And when I add that, it gives me this average column, but I'm actually going to add the same aggregations that we have on the tag loading time as well. So I'm going to add the min, I'm going to add the max, and I'm going to add the median. I'm going to reorganize these a little bit there. Cool. Okay. So again, this is when did that request start relative to the LCP. Okay. So the lower the number is typically better, right? So if we're looking at Google Tag Manager here, the average and the median are actually both negative numbers, which means that Google Tag Manager is loading before the LCP happens. So that's usually pretty good because you're probably not going to lose data at that point, right? And they're both pretty similar in terms of the average versus the median. But the GA4 tag, it's a completely different story. The median and the average are both well over 3 seconds. 3 seconds, 4.2 seconds. So that's 4.2 seconds after the main content on the page is firing. And then in the worst case scenario, the tag is also taking 7 seconds to load. So if your page is taking 2 or 3 seconds plus 4 seconds after that point, plus 7 seconds. Now we're well over 10 to 12 seconds for this tag to properly fire and for the data to be collected on your side. And so yes, a few pages have long load times, and that's a problem. But the bigger problem might be that it's taking a long time to even start firing these tags on the majority of your pages, right? Because we're looking at the median and the average here, not just the outliers. And that could be causing more data loss than the few pages with the slow leading loading times. And so that could be the message that you're sharing and conveying to your engineering team that it's not just the tags, it might be when the tags are loading and the order that they're happening with. So yeah, that's just cool thing a few cool things that you can do with these aggregations. So yeah, I think back to you, Eve.
Awesome. So yeah, that is the tool. Essentially, the key takeaway we want you to remember is you pick the question and then you build the report that meets you where you are. So a couple more slides and then we'll take a look. I know we've got a couple of questions. I tried to answer one. Nick, if you want to just check that that's right, I think it is. I know we've got one from Chelsea as well. So maybe we can look at that after. Um, so let's see. Sharing insights. Okay, so a report that no one opens doesn't change or fix anything. So you want to match what you share to who's receiving it. So for individuals, ideally you'd want to build your own library that only you can see and then share a public link when you want to. For teams, organize with labels. And, this is a big one we mentioned earlier. People have asked us to be able to organize reports into folders for a while. And so we built something better. We made it work with labels where labels let one report live in several folders at once, which we thought would meet the need a lot better. And then as for leadership, you want to schedule reports on the key metric trends so they can keep up without too much effort. I'd assume they want reports on maybe a monthly, weekly basis, but if you've got a team monitoring a trend, you'd probably want to see that more regularly.
Yeah. So let's talk about best practices, to put your reporting to work for you, essentially. So first, you curate, focus on the use cases that actually matter to you and your stakeholders. And second, ask yourself, what are the failure points that would hurt my key metrics? Then create reports to list out those failure points happening on your sites. Think of it, think of some of them as a burn down that you work through, not just a one-time cleanup, kind of like what we showed earlier. And then third, when you schedule a burn down style report, it becomes an alert to help maintain this over the long term. You get actionable data to the right people in the shortest amount of time. That's the whole game. The right signal to the right person fast.
So let's talk about taking action. Here are four quick things that you can set an alarm for yourself to do Monday morning. Firstly, pick one question your stakeholder actually wants answers for. That might be, are we compliant? Are we spending well on our web tech? Are we missing analytics anywhere? Etc., etc. Then confirm the audits behind that question are actually scheduled and have been running. Then find the closest template to help answer this question or build one from scratch. Save it and simplify the structure to answer it as best you can. And finally, schedule it to one person with a specific ask. So that might be create some Jira tickets for these missing tag managers on these pages before Thursday. Because an FYI, I think we found tends to go a bit unnoticed, but an ask tends to create action.
Awesome. And that's us. So thanks for spending the time with us today. Let's get to those questions. So drop them in the chat. For whatever reason, I'm going to stop sharing because I cannot see the chat while I'm sharing
Well,
it.
if you keep sharing, because I think you might like this one, and if I'm wrong, I will take the blame
Sure.
for that. But
Sure.
Chelsea said, "What's your favorite way to visualize results over time using the report charts? For example, comparing baseline audit results to future audits to see whether issues like duplicate tags are improving." What's this? I was also curious if it would auto suggest a chart that best matches your data report results. Um,
Yeah.
that's oh well, I'll let you take that, but
Yeah, yeah. Well, like Eve showed, so in this gallery reports here, you're actually able to see which templates have charts. So not all of them have charts necessarily, but a lot of them do. And obviously we were focusing more on the reporting side of this. I think we had another webinar recently that focused more on the charting side of
mm,
things. But yeah, let's take a look at that. So you were talking about duplicate tags. I'm actually not sure if the duplicate um, pages with analytics duplication. So that one does not have a chart built into it, but let me see if I can just do that real quick. So, because if you're doing anything over time, you obviously want time as a data point there, which we do have the page start visit time. And so what we could do is actually group by this column. Well, let's change the format of it real quick, right? So we want to look at this. Um, let's see about monthly. And my data is not going to be very good because these are only reports that we ran recently. So I'm only going to have basically one data point here. But let's see if I can still build it like that. So let's group by this column actually, which is only going to give us one row, but that's okay. And then so now that we're grouped by this time data point, we have all these metrics behind it, right? How many tags? And so this is how many unique tags that are analytics tags that are duplicated or sending duplicate requests, how many times that duplication request happens, um, and the audits behind them, and the final page URL. So we can actually add a chart here, and let's see if we can do this over time. Let's do a stacked. And let's use the request URL and the uh, tag. Oh, whoops. Uh, tag and the final page URL. And then actually, let's do it vertically because that makes sense.
yeah, I think I prefer the vertical one.
Yeah. So yeah, so if we're looking at this right here, this is how many pages. Um, oh, let's see. The stack actually doesn't really make sense. I think
How
it's
about
more.
line?
There we go. That's what I wanted. So this is the uh, final page URL, the unique tag requests, and the tags. Now, again, this is only one point on the x-axis because there's only one date here because it's based on uh, demo audits that we recently ran. But if you were to have multiple, your data is going back months in time, it would be breaking this down by month. So July, June, May, so on and so forth. And then you can even add lines in terms of showing that progression over time. So hopefully that helps you out, Chelsea.
Let's just check. Chelsea, does that answer your question? One new message. Fantastic. Yes, yes, it does. I would also add, I think generally, when you're looking at results over time, I think either this or a line. I quite like a line one as well over time. Um, what another message? What's that? CSV. Sorry, Carl. I'm not sure I've got the. Oh, no, that was replying to Nick's question. Okay, ignore me. Ignore me. Do we have any other questions in the chat that I've missed? Let me scroll back. Um, None at the beginning. Do, do, do. Chelsea's one. I think that was to Nick. No other questions. I think Kyle's waiting for an answer. I think Nick's helping him out with the export stuff. I guess one thing to point out, just while you're sharing your screen, that was a little thing that I honestly found out quite recently, which is embarrassing on my part. But where it says in the bottom right, items per page, just to let you know, if you ever get caught out and you think you are missing large amounts of data when you've made a change, it might be worth checking what the items per page says, because sometimes you might find it says 10 instead of the larger ones. And if you've got a large amount of data and suddenly it's disappeared, that can be why. And again, that is speaking from experience and being very confused, but just a small reminder of that one.
Yep. Awesome. I finally figured out how to look at the chat while I'm sharing. So I'm just going through the chat right now. Um,
You can
cool.
tell us we haven't done a webinar before.
Yep. Yep.
Well, I couldn't work out how to react to people's messages, so or reply to them directly. So that's what I'm going to ask you about later as well. Um, okay, Nick's replied to Kyle. Let me submit this as a support request specifically for the CSV export. Okay, great.
Oh,
So
awesome.
I think that probably brings us to the end.
Yeah.
Um,
Right on time.
yeah. Thanks everyone for joining us. I hope you found
Yeah.
it useful.
Yeah, we
Um,
appreciate it.
Yeah, well, have a good rest of the day. I think you'll probably be able to access this recording on our YouTube channel if you want to see this again,
Yep.
if once wasn't enough. And hope you have a good rest of the day.
Yep. Appreciate it.
Bye, everyone.